I never should have lied about knowing how to rock climb. But when Susan looked at me with those bright eyes and said, "Come with us to Eagles Peak this weekend," I couldn't say no. I wanted to impress her so badly that the words just fell out of my mouth. "Sure, I've been climbing for years," I said with a fake smile. The truth was, I had never touched a real rock face in my life. I had only watched videos online and practiced on the fake wall at the gym a few times. But how hard could it really be? Friday came too fast. My hands shook as I packed my bag. I kept telling myself I could back out, make up some excuse, say I was sick. But then Susan texted me a photo of her gear, all laid out and ready. She was so excited. I couldn't disappoint her now. Eagles Peak was 3 hours away. The whole drive there, my stomach felt like it was full of angry bees, and Susan's friends Jake and Mike talked about different routes and techniques I had never heard of. I just nodded and hoped they wouldn't ask me anything directly. When we got there, the rock face looked like a giant gray monster reaching up to the sky. It was much taller than I had imagined, much more terrifying. The surface looked rough and sharp, with cracks running through it like lightning bolts. "Which route do you want to try first?" Jake asked me, pointing at the wall. My mouth went dry. You guys pick. I'm not picky. They chose something called a 5.7 route. Susan said it was perfect for someone getting back into climbing after a break. I had no idea what the numbers meant, but I nodded like I understood everything. Mike went first. He moved up the rock like a spider, finding tiny holds I couldn't even see from where I stood. Susan went next, graceful and confident. Then it was my turn. "Need help with your harness?" Jake offered. "No, I got it," I lied, fumbling with the straps. I had watched them put theirs on, so I copied what they did. It felt loose, but I was too embarrassed to ask for help. I approached the rock wall. My heart was beating so fast I thought it might explode. The first few moves were easy. There were big holds I could grab onto. I started to think maybe I could actually do this. Then I got about 20 feet up, and everything changed. The holds became smaller, sharper. My fingers started to hurt. I could feel my strength draining away like water from a broken bucket. Below me, the ground looked much further away than it had seemed a minute ago. "You're doing great," Susan called up. "Just trust your feet." Trust my feet? My feet were shaking so hard the whole rock seemed to vibrate. Sweat was pouring down my face, making it hard to see. My palms were getting slippery. I reached for the next hold, but my hand slipped. For a terrifying second, I was hanging by just 3 points of contact. My left hand, my right foot, my left foot. That was all that kept me from falling. "Take your time," Jake shouted. "Find your balance." But I was losing it, fast. My muscles were screaming. My grip was failing. I looked down and immediately regretted it. The rocky ground below looked like it was covered in sharp teeth, waiting to bite me. That's when I felt it. The harness was sliding down my waist. I had put it on wrong. It wasn't tight enough. With each movement, it slipped a little more. Soon it would be around my knees, and then I would fall for real. Terror shot through me like ice water in my veins. This was it. I was going to die. And it was all because of my stupid lie. "Help!" I screamed. "Something's wrong with my harness." The panic in my voice made everyone go quiet. Jake started climbing up toward me as fast as he could, but he was still far below. My right foot slipped off its hold, and now I was hanging by just my hands and one foot. The harness slid down another inch. I could feel it loose around my hips. Any second now, I would slip right out of it. My fingers were cramping. The pain was unbearable, like someone was driving nails into my hands. I couldn't hold on much longer. "I'm coming!" Jake yelled, but his voice sounded far away. My left hand started to slip. Millimeter by millimeter, my grip was failing. I could see the tiny cuts the rough rock was making in my skin. Blood made my hands even more slippery. This was how I was going to die. Alone on a rock face 20 feet up, because I was too proud to tell the truth, because I wanted to impress a girl. My parents would never forgive me. Susan would blame herself forever. Just as my grip completely failed, I felt strong hands grab my wrist. Jake had reached me just in time. His face was red from climbing so fast, but his grip was solid and sure. "I got you," he said through heavy breathing. "Just hang on to me." He helped me get my feet back on solid holds. Then he fixed my harness properly, pulling it tight around my waist where it belonged. The relief was so intense I almost started crying right there on the rock. "Let's get you down," he said quietly. The descent was slow and careful. Jake stayed right next to me the whole time, guiding my hands and feet to safe holds. When my boots finally touched the ground, my legs gave out completely. I collapsed onto the rocky dirt, shaking like a leaf in a storm. Susan ran over and knelt beside me. "Are you okay? What happened up there?" I looked at her worried face. At Jake, who had risked his own safety to save me. At Mike, who was already packing up the ropes. These people had trusted me. They thought I knew what I was doing, and I had nearly gotten myself killed because of my lie. "I need to tell you something," I said, my voice still shaking. "I've never really rock climbed before. I lied because I wanted to impress you guys. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The silence that followed felt longer than the climb itself. Then Susan put her hand on my shoulder. "Why didn't you just tell us? We could have started you on something easier. We could have taught you properly." Jake nodded. "Everyone starts somewhere, man. There's no shame in being a beginner." They weren't angry. They weren't laughing at me. They were just worried that I had gotten hurt. We spent the rest of the weekend on easy practice routes near the ground. Jake and Susan taught me the basics properly. How to tie knots, how to put on a harness correctly, how to read the rock and plan my moves. I learned something more important than climbing that weekend. I learned that honesty might be scary, but lies can be deadly. I should have known something was wrong when Amelia started watching me through the fence. My name is Jake, and I'm 12 years old. Until 3 months ago, I thought I had the best life ever. We lived in a big house with a swimming pool. My dad bought me a new bike for my birthday. I had the latest video games and all the cool clothes the other kids wanted. Amelia lived next door in a nice house just like ours. She had everything she needed, but somehow it was never enough. She always wanted more. She always wanted what other people had instead of her own things. Everything changed the day my dad brought home the new car. It was a shiny red sports car that made a loud, cool sound when he started it up. All the neighbors came out to look. I felt so proud walking around it, touching the smooth paint. That's when I saw Amelia. She stood at her bedroom window, staring down at me. Her face looked strange. Her eyes seemed different, greener, like they were glowing. "Nice car," she called out, but her voice sounded weird, cold. I waved at her, but she didn't wave back. She just kept staring with those green eyes until I got scared and went inside. The next morning, I found scratches all down the side of Dad's new car. Deep, ugly scratches that looked like someone had used their fingernails to scrape the paint off. Dad was so angry. He yelled and stomped around the garage. "Who would do this?" he kept saying. I looked over at Amelia's house. She was watching from her window again. When she saw me looking, she smiled. But it wasn't a nice smile. It was the kind of smile that made my stomach hurt. At school that day, Amelia sat behind me in math class. She never used to sit there before. "I heard about your dad's car," she whispered. "That's too bad." I turned around. "Did you see who did it?" "Maybe," she said. Her green eyes looked even brighter than before. "Maybe I did it myself." I felt cold all over. "Why would you do that?" "Because I wanted to," she said. "Because you have everything, and I want it all for myself." I told my teacher I felt sick and went to the nurse's office, but I couldn't stop thinking about Amelia's eyes and that scary smile. When I got home, something else was wrong. My bike was gone from the garage. We found it later in the woods behind our house. Someone had smashed it with rocks until it was just twisted metal and broken pieces. The wheels were bent, the handlebars were snapped off. I started crying. That bike was my favorite thing in the whole world. Mom called the police, but they said there wasn't much they could do. Probably just kids playing pranks, the officer said. But I knew it wasn't kids. It was Amelia. The attacks got worse. Someone threw rocks through my bedroom window while I was sleeping. Glass cut my face. I still have the scars. Someone poured paint all over my dad's work clothes that were hanging on the line. He had to buy all new shirts and pants. Someone killed our goldfish and left them floating in the pool. Every time something bad happened, I would see Amelia watching from her window. She was always smiling that terrible smile. My parents started talking about moving. Maybe we should find a safer neighborhood, Mom said. But I knew moving wouldn't help. Amelia would find a way to hurt us wherever we went. I decided I had to stop her. One night, I snuck out of my house and climbed the fence into Amelia's yard. I was going to look through her windows and find proof that she was the one hurting us. Her house was dark and quiet. I crept up to the kitchen window and looked inside. What I saw made me want to scream. The walls were covered with pictures. Pictures of me, pictures of my family, pictures of our house, our car, our pool. But in every single picture, our faces were scratched out with red marker. Angry words were written all over them in big, messy letters. Why do they get everything? It's not fair, it's not fair, it's not fair. I saw something else that made my heart stop. On the kitchen table were maps of our house, drawings that showed every room, every door, every window. And there was a list of ways to hurt us. The last thing on the list made me so scared I almost passed out. Kill them all while they sleep. I had to get home and tell my parents. I started to run, but something grabbed my ankle. I fell hard on the ground. When I looked up, Amelia was standing over me. But she didn't look like Amelia anymore. Her hair was messy and dirty, her clothes were torn, and her eyes were so green they seemed to glow in the dark like an animal's eyes. "You shouldn't have come here, Jake," she said. Her voice was different too, deeper, scarier. I tried to crawl away, but she stepped on my back, pushing me down into the dirt. "Do you know what it's like?" she said. "Do you know what it's like to want something so bad it feels like you're dying inside?" I couldn't breathe with her foot on my back. "Every day I watch you play in your big yard with your fancy toys. Every day I see your dad drive that beautiful car. Every day I remember that I'll never have any of those things." She pressed harder. I felt like my ribs might break. "So if I can't have them," she whispered, "then you can't either." I heard a sound like metal scraping against metal. I turned my head and saw that Amelia was holding a big kitchen knife. "Please," I gasped. "Please don't hurt me." "I'm not going to hurt you, Jake," she said. "I'm going to hurt everyone you love, and you're going to watch." She lifted the knife high in the air, but then something amazing happened. The back door of Amelia's house burst open. A woman came running out. "Amelia, stop!" It was Amelia's mom. She looked scared and worried, but she moved fast. She grabbed Amelia's arm and pulled the knife away. "Mom, let me go!" Amelia screamed. She fought and kicked, but her mom held on tight. "No, baby, this isn't the answer." Amelia started crying, not angry crying, real, deep, hurt crying. "It's not fair," she sobbed. "Why does he get to have everything I want? Why can't I have those things instead?" Her mom hugged her close. "I know, sweetheart, I know it hurts, but hurting other people won't make the wanting go away." I stood up slowly. My back hurt, but I was okay. Amelia's mom looked at me. "I'm so sorry," she said. "Amelia's been having a hard time since her dad left us. We don't have much money, and she sees how much you have, and it made her sick with wanting." I looked at Amelia. She seemed so small now, so sad. The scary green glow was gone from her eyes. Now they just looked tired and full of tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered to me. "I'm really sorry. I wanted to have what you have." "I know," I said, and I did know. For the first time, I understood how it must feel to watch someone else have everything you wished for. Amelia's mom took her inside to call my parents and the police. Amelia had to go to a special hospital where doctors help kids who are too sad and angry to think straight. Before she left, she wrote me a letter. "Dear Jake," it said, "I'm sorry I scared you. I'm sorry I broke your things. The doctors say I was sick in my mind from wanting things too much. They call it envy, and it made me do terrible things. I hope someday you can forgive me. Maybe when I get better, we can be friends." I kept that letter. Amelia came back 6 months later. She looked different, calmer. Her eyes were just regular brown now, not scary green. My parents weren't sure we should talk to her, but I asked them to let me try. "Hi, Amelia," I said when I saw her in her yard. "Hi, Jake." She looked down at her feet. "Are you still scared of me?" I thought about it. A little, but I want to not be scared anymore. She nodded. "I want that too." That summer, I did something that surprised everyone. I asked my parents if Amelia could use our pool sometimes, and if she wanted to play video games with me. At first, my parents said no, but I kept asking. She was sick, I told them, but she's better now. And maybe if I shared my things, she wouldn't feel so bad about not having them. It took time, but slowly, Amelia and I became friends. Real friends. She still lives in the small house next door. Her family still doesn't have much money, but now when she looks at our nice things, she doesn't get that scary green look in her eyes. Because now some of those nice things are hers to enjoy too. I learned something important that year. Envy can make people do terrible things, but sometimes sharing what you have can heal the hurt that makes envy grow. Amelia never hurt anyone again. And I never forgot how scary it can be when someone wants what you have so much that it makes them sick inside. Now, when I see someone looking at my things with sad, wanting eyes, I try to share, because I never want to see those terrible green eyes again. Never again. My name is Justin Morello, and I wish I could forget what happened during my first month as a forest ranger in Whisper Woods. The memory still makes my hands shake when I write these words. I thought being a forest ranger would be peaceful. Just me, the trees, and clean air. I was wrong. So very wrong. It started on my third day. I was checking the old logging trails when I saw them, huge trucks cutting down trees in a protected area. My heart pounded as I approached the workers. "Hey, stop right there," I shouted, my voice echoing through the forest. The biggest man turned around. His face was covered in scars, and his eyes looked like a dead fish. "You must be the new ranger," he said with a smile that made my skin crawl. "This is a protected forest. You can't cut trees here," I said, trying to sound brave. He walked closer to me. I could smell his rotten breath. "Maybe we can work something out, Ranger boy." He pulled out a thick roll of money. "Take this and forget what you saw." My stomach turned. "I can't do that. It's my job to protect this forest." His smile disappeared. "You're making a big mistake, Justin Morello." The way he said my name made ice run through my veins. He knew who I was. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound outside my cabin made me jump. The wind through the trees sounded like whispers saying my name. I kept checking my doors and windows, making sure they were locked. The next morning, I found my truck tires slashed, all 4 of them. Cut so deep that black rubber hung like dead skin. There was a note on my windshield, "Last warning." My hands shook as I read it. I called my boss, Ranger Captain Mills. "Mills here." His voice crackled through the phone. "Captain, someone slashed my tires. The illegal logging crew threatened me yesterday." There was a long silence. "Justin, maybe you saw things wrong. Sometimes new rangers get confused." "Confused? I know what I saw." "Just be careful what you report, son. Some things are better left alone." The line went dead. My own boss was telling me to ignore the crime. The fear in my chest grew bigger. I had to walk 5 miles to the nearest town for new tires. The forest felt different now. Every shadow looked like it was watching me. Every branch that cracked sounded like footsteps following me. 3 days later, I went back to the logging site. I had to get proof. I brought my camera and stayed hidden behind thick trees. The scarred man was there again, but this time he wasn't alone. 6 men with him, all carrying axes and chainsaws. They were cutting down trees that were hundreds of years old. Beautiful giants that would never grow again. I took pictures. Click after click. My hands were sweating so much I almost dropped the camera. Then I heard a stick break behind me. I turned around slowly. Another man stood 10 feet away, pointing a hunting rifle at my chest. His finger was on the trigger. Well, the little ranger wants to play hero, he said. My heart hammered so hard I thought it might explode. Please, I was just... Taking pictures? Yeah, we saw. He whistled loudly. The other men came running. 7 against 1. They surrounded me like wolves around a wounded deer. The scarred man grabbed my camera and smashed it on a rock. You just won't learn, will you? Look, I'll leave. I won't say anything, I begged. I hated how scared I sounded. Too late for that. He nodded to the others. 2 men grabbed my arms. Another one punched me in the stomach. Pain shot through my body like lightning. I doubled over, gasping for air. This is what happens to rangers who don't mind their own business? The scarred man said. They dragged me deeper into the forest, to a place where no one would ever find me. My feet scraped against rocks and roots. Blood ran down my face from where they hit me. We stopped at an old, abandoned mine shaft. A black hole in the ground that looked like it went down forever. Perfect place for a nosy ranger to disappear, one of them laughed. They tied my hands behind my back with rough rope that cut into my skin. Every movement made it tighter. Please, I whispered, I have a family. Should have thought about that before you decided to be a hero. They pushed me toward the edge of the mine shaft. I looked down into the darkness and knew I was going to die. My legs felt like water. That's when I heard the sound that saved my life. Sirens, police sirens getting closer and closer. The men looked at each other with panic in their eyes. Someone called the cops, one shouted. Impossible. Nobody knows we're here. The scarred man pulled out a gun and pointed it at my head. His hand was shaking with anger. If I'm going down, you're coming with me. I closed my eyes and waited for the bullet, but it never came. Instead, I heard him scream. When I opened my eyes, he was rolling on the ground, holding his hand. The gun was gone. FBI! Nobody move. Federal agents came out of the trees from every direction, dozens of them with their guns drawn. The logging crew tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Within minutes, they were all on the ground in handcuffs. Agent Sarah Chen came over and cut the rope from my hands. You're safe now, Ranger Morello. How did you know? I asked, my voice still shaking. We've been watching this crew for months. When you called in that report about illegal logging, it confirmed what we suspected. We put a tracking device on your truck and audio equipment in your cabin. My boss told me to ignore it. Captain Mills was taking bribes. He's already in custody. I felt sick. My own boss had tried to get me killed. The pictures you took last week with your phone helped get the final evidence we needed, Agent Chen said. Last week? But they smashed my camera today. She smiled. You uploaded the photos to the cloud before you came back. We got everything we needed. Later, I learned the truth. The logging crew was part of a big crime ring that stole millions of dollars worth of trees from protected forests. They killed 2 other rangers who tried to stop them. I almost became number 3. The scarred man got life in prison. The others got 20 years each. Captain Mills got 10 years for taking bribes. I still work as a forest ranger in Whisper Woods. The forest is peaceful now, the way it should be. The old trees stand tall and proud, safe from the saws that almost destroyed them.